The beauty of doing DTC is that you put up a test and you get the results the day after. So we have a very unique positioning where we can test so many hypotheses and get results so quickly that we got to optimize in a relatively short time. There is tons to do DTC related. So we've just started. This is how we feel. We just started. Like there is so much room for optimization, um, so much room for innovation, not just in payment side of things, but also product side of things.
All right, what's up, guys? Justin Khan here, back with another Secret Stash, and I'm here with my co-host, Archie Stonehill. Archie, say hello.
Yo, it's Archie. Still working on that intro.
You got- After this many episodes, you'd think it'd be smoother than that. All right, today we've got two special guests that I'm super excited about. We have the two founders, Briga and Shai Arnon of Galleon, which, to not bury the lead, has just joined Stash, our first merger acquisition. We are super excited to have them join the team and bring their entrepreneurial spirit. So, guys, say hello.
Hey everyone,
Hi
being
there.
here.
Excited to be on this side of the podcast and not as a listener.
Yeah, awesome. So, welcome. We're going to cover a lot of stuff today. I want to make this not just as we were discussing before we got on. I don't want this to just be, a PR announcement. So, I want to really dig into the ins and outs of like how you made the decision to work together and what could, how this could work really well, and also how this could work really poorly. Acquisitions are always a little bit risky on both sides, and so yeah, let's just dive into it. Let's start off
Uh,
with the high level, like Galleon. Tell everybody what Galleon does.
we build a DTC suite, kind of like a white label. So we are not a merchant of record. We work exclusively with large studios that want to feel they own the relationship with the customer. So we provide them kind of like an end-to-end solution for everything they need in order to be to operate their DTC operations at high scale, at high volume, and still being an MOR themselves.
Why could you tell maybe a little bit like what an MOR is and why developers might
But
want that?
yeah, I talk to people that understand statements on daily basis.
Yeah,
That
you're deep in it. You're the
I'm way
expert,
deep.
but
I'm way
let's
deep.
make this a little broader for everybody who's not deep in the
Yes.
gaming payments world.
So MOR is merchant of record, meaning who owns the relationship between the transaction and the acquirer, meaning Visa and MasterCard. Uh, it's a tricky thing because if you are the MOR, that means that you're responsible for all the tax reporting, filing, collecting, all the chargebacks, all the refunds. Basically means that you in charge of the relationships between you and Visa and MasterCard, while uh, um, most studios prefer not to deal with it, and therefore they're choosing a partner to be their MOR, such as Stash, to take care of everything from tax to chargebacks. So the main difference between Galleon and MOR services.
And how does Galleon play? Like which kind of distribution categories, D2C channels does it play in? And what does Galleon do when it comes to the front end and building those channels alongside developers? Is it just payments or, um, you know, where do you guys play and how do you play that?
So I think we help the studios that we work with to maintain the relationship, as Or said, when it comes to payments, but also to direct to consumers in general, in a whole suite. And what it means is I think we all got used to working through the platforms. So we work with Android and iOS. And, they made it feel like it always should be like that they are the middleman between the developer and the end consumer. However, it doesn't have to be like that. And developers, especially the ones that are, in charge of generating hundreds of millions of dollars some of them every month, some of them every year, they of course are entitled to have their own relationship with the consumer. So when it comes to distributing their applications, so distributing APKs in Android, for instance, and we hope to see a similar movement in the iOS area. And also, of course, when it comes to payments, so payments, if you want to feel like the native payment, which is not the iOS one and not the Android one, in your app, or you want to have like the direct link outs that are now available in the US, we help the studio to do it just the way they want it to be, the way they want their consumers, their users to feel it, and not the way some middlemen force them to do it like so.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm sure we can get, more into that a little bit later, but we thought it'd be good if we ran through, your journey prior to payments, because it's an interesting one. I've actually known Or for a number of years. I've known you guys since you guys were doing your previous startup, maybe even your previous startup. So I think it would be, cool to dig into just quickly what that journey was, where you guys came from before jumping into this world of D2C payments.
Yeah, so we go way back, Shai and I together as a team. Our first startup was a training platform for competitive gamers. So the thesis behind Novos was that as time would go by, there would be more and more gamers who want to become pro. And right now, the only solution for them is watch Twitch or other people play and like maybe a friend of them. And we wanted to build a training platform at scale that extract the data from the game using some advanced technology, AI magic, extract all the data strengths, weaknesses, and build the personalized training plans. At some point in time, after raising a significant amount of money, we learned that the publishers have some power over everything we try to do. Funny enough, one of the challenges we faced was Epic changing their policy and limiting the amount of tournaments a third party can organize. And we were organizing like 1,000 of tournaments at that time. So we kind of put ourselves in a position where the market hasn't matured as we expected to be by this time. We couldn't do whatever we want because we were kind of dependent on a third party that determined the rules. So we decided to pivot, and we pivoted into building a skill-based game. So we actually pivoted into being a studio ourselves. We developed a end-to-end like casual game all the way from live ops, monetization, marketing. And because it was a skill-based game, we had to take care of payments ourselves. We couldn't use Apple and Google payment system. So this is how we found ourselves in a very unique intersection between payments, casual games, and everything in between. And I think this expertise of running a studio ourselves, being involved in every step in the cycle of building a game, alongside our deep understanding into payments, this is what gave us an advantage and a unique positioning to start a company such as Galleon.
So a couple
Yeah,
thoughts.
that's awesome.
One that example of Fortnite or Epic changing its rules is a classic example of how you could get screwed by building on top of someone else's land, right? And I think the game studios are all kind of, we're kind of seeing that out on this massive way with the like rents that Apple and Google are extracting from studios. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs think about that in the beginning, right? They kind of like see an opportunity, build on top of a popular platform, and then maybe build something people really like. And then at some point that platform changes its mind of like whether they want to allow that to exist, whether they want to own more of it, how much, whether you're making too much money, and then things change. So something for all the entrepreneurs out there to think about and learn from.
It's funny that,
yeah.
Epic that we used to be dependent on, and they were the platform, that our startup was solely relying on, and their decision could kill our startup, are now paving the way for DTC companies and studios not being reliant on the
Yeah, to get
platforms.
off of platform,
Mhm.
right?
Totally, there's a nice parallel there, and I do think the mobile industry really woke up to this broadly when IDFA deprecation happened in 2021, and game developers, I think, were generally just stunned that a partner at a platform they relied on so heavily could alter their fundamental business model so drastically with just a policy change. And I do think that was a big motivator for direct consumer adoption among game developers was that realization that like, hey, we don't own our customers, we don't have their data, we're forced to use these distribution channels, and these distribution channels aren't necessarily always going to be our friends, are perhaps entering the category themselves, or are launching their own service that competes, and so have an incentive to change the rules in a way that benefits them but doesn't benefit us. And so I do think that that was one of the real kind of motivating forces for this new wave of direct consumer adoption among larger mobile developers.
Yeah, it's not limited to gaming. This is a pretty common business pattern across history, or like the history of the internet, where the promise of the internet in the beginning was decentralization or of distribution, right? Like you could directly access your customers, whatever they were, and then we built these centralized platforms that aggregated all the demand, and like an Amazon is another good example, where Amazon has increased the rent they charge merchants that sell to their customers from like, I think it was somewhere around 14, 15, 16% in 2014. And now it's like over 50% on average that they charge merchants, or they take percentage that they take from sales. And so, you're kind of always going through these phases of like, okay, we're going to centralize all the demand. Some company figures out how to do it. And then we own the customer. And now we're going to tax you rent as high, like right up to your, like you're going to bring the water line of like the part of your margin we're going to take up until like the point where you can barely breathe. And then firms are like, oh, wait, we need to like own our customers. This is crazy. And then they look for solutions where they can directly access their customers.
I think that what we saw when we started Galleon was that we met with a couple of studios, and studios traditionally work on two angles, like trying to reduce the price, like reducing CAC, or improving their lifetime value and monetize better. And those two fronts was the balance of each one of the studios we worked with. They do this optimization to those part of the equation for so many years, and it's close to perfection. And then with DDC, it has opened up a whole new area of optimization, which is how can we take as much as we can from the 30% cut that Apple and Google takes. And when you release a new feature or a new journey or whatever, it improves your metrics by, let's call it a 1%, which is a lot. But moving DDC improves your profitability, like the bottom line, by depends how you look at it. Let's call it 36%, or let's call it 25%. And this is such a dramatic news to the industry. This is why everybody are looking at ADC right now as the right place to put most of their efforts, because it changes so much so quickly.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you decided to start Galleon. You had this other company that was building a game studio, and what happened with that company? And then how did that inform how you ended up starting Galleon?
For the previous company, we got to a point where we raised, as I mentioned, we raised a significant amount of money, and the game took off, but not as quickly as we expected. And we were in a place where we need to make a decision on whether we stop losses, which is also a very important lesson in our entrepreneurial journey. Like, understand that it doesn't work as we expected, and we don't see a clear path towards winning. And with our previous game, we got to a point where we felt that we joined the party too late. The cost of acquisition prices went up so dramatically since we tapped into this market, that we couldn't compete with the large companies in these categories such as Papaya, Skills, Avia. And they had just way too much money to spend on marketing. So every user we acquired has to perform so much better than their that we couldn't compete, and raising more funds into this company in 2024 was a bit of a challenge due to regulatory changes and different reasons. So we decided to stop loss and understand that it's better for us and for our investors to return the money that we have in the company, and we gave it the best chance. We gave it a fair fight. We gave it everything we had, and I think it's important to say that we got to a point where it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's
And I think
that's a hard realization to make, right? Yeah, Shai, go ahead.
the day after we closed, or and I, like, of course, we had like rough times there, and we had an amazing team working together with us, and they, of course, understood. But Or and I understood that, maybe the most valuable asset that we gained throughout those years was our partnership. I think one of the first decisions that we've made after we've closed Novos is that we want to continue working together. And of course, Or got proposals and I got proposals, and we made the hard decisions to
Marry
the
each
hard
other.
decision. Yeah, exactly. And throughout our journey, the co-CEOs of SuperPlay, we came to them for advice in any area that we could have thought of, if it's like business, product, sometimes, personal advice of like the entrepreneurial life. And of course, we did it also after we've closed Novos. And then it was when we've heard Gilad's vision for DTC. And it was very, very refreshing to hear it, because he thought about DTC in a way that we've never heard before from anyone else in the industry. And this vision was very, very appealing to us. I think it combined a few passion of ours, which, first of all, it's a huge scale. You hear Gilad thinking about it, and you know that he has a game, and he has a studio that creates games for millions of daily active users, and his obsession to the small detail of when the transaction happens, and rethinking how payment and DTC is done in the industry, is what made us think, okay, this is where we want to go, and this is who we want to partner with. And I think Or and I, even though we understood that maybe B2B is where we want to go next, we wanted a consumer-facing product. Being in the consumer business is addictive. When you change something, and then the day after you see the metrics change, and not to mention when you work with a very large studio and you like these numbers are in the millions, it's hard to go back. We have friends very good friends in the B2B, like in cyber and in other industries. Well, I don't know. I'm used to wake up in the morning and to see the metrics and to see what's changed and what we can do today and ship today in order to change it tomorrow. And Gilad and Netzer and SuperPlay are the perfect partners for it. And I think our ability to take it from here.
Yes. So as you mentioned, SuperPlay was our design partner. They were the first company we reached out to with the pitch of, let's do a DTC solution, which is kind of like white label. It will be white gloved. Shai and I will be there personally, do whatever it takes. We didn't mention it earlier, but Shai leads all that technology, like a tech, brilliant. And I do product and business. And I think this separation, what made us good, work so well for so many years. Like, we don't step on each other's toes in any areas. So when we talked with Gilad about it, he had a very clear vision on DTC, and this is way before like the US thing and way before the new rulings. It was when everybody, like the largest companies, DTC companies, were building web shops, which is a super complex product. heavy lifting in terms of technology. Had a lot of value. It's available worldwide. So we looked at the web shops and we said, okay, it's more than what we can do. What we're gonna do is we're gonna build the native experiences. So we're going to focus on APKs. APK is kind of like an alternative version of the game that uses our proprietary payment system rather than Google Play services. So we started with one game. What we did was, first of all, build a machine that can take a bill and extract everything Google related. And so it comes to like game updates, payment system, sending receipts, tax, like small, tiny things that you don't think of. So take everything out and put in our system. We got to a point where it was in testing in one of the games. Like we already merged everything. We had like heavy lifting to do in the studios to incorporate what we built with their game. And then I can all of a sudden the US ruling for iOS happened. And I think the beauty of being a small startup with not such a clear roadmap, to be honest, is like, okay, let's shift. And within a week, I want to say, we were already live with the web checkout for 2 games. Obviously, we had a lot of the related payments infrastructure in place. And we had a very strong relationship with the product team in the studio, the monetization team in the studio. We were very incorporated within the studio, so it was, and we have the backup that we needed from the co-CEOs of like D2C is a priority. So they call us the bold guys in SuperPlay for obvious reasons, I assume. So we like we have a WhatsApp group with everybody. Like the ball guys needs this, that make it happen because D2C is critical. So when the whole studio is aligned on that, it makes magic.
Awesome. So they were, that's a good lesson for entrepreneurs out there, I think. That we always used to say at Y Combinator, which is like you should do things that don't scale and get inside your customer and just listen to what their needs are and do like whatever they need, right? As a way to discover what the common problems are in the industry. And it's kind of like you would never have necessarily been in the position to, do iOS, like if you weren't in there, building this tooling for Android APKs,
If
Cool.
you
So
look
tell-
at our budget for like the first couple of months, it was like, yeah, we gotta make like $6,000. And Shai and I looked at it like, how is it going to? And I mean, we'll figure it out. Like it will work. Like SuperPlay will scale. We will scale with it. We'll have new customers. And I think like being prepared for the unknown as much as you can is like the number one rule in entrepreneurship. You never know what would happen. In many of the cases, it's gonna be bad. Change of regulation. One of your competitors got sued. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's a good change. Just like the US, iOS open up. So you have to be ready for whatever comes.
Yeah, it looks like they say luck is preparation, something like that. I don't know. I'm butchering the quote, but
Opportunity means
finding it
preparation.
opportunity means. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, you said.
But awesome, guys. So how has that kind of gone? And where is the product now? Where are you guys in development now? And maybe could you situate that in the context of your decision to join us?
So I'll start with some technical, or not technical, but high-level stuff, and I'll let you take it from here. So we are now live in all 3 games, processing hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Been very exciting, and we got to this point in a relatively short time. We have our APK up and ready. We have web checkouts up and ready. We see really good conversion rate. To be honest, thankfully to heavy focus of everyone involved on UI and UX and how the user interact and relate to the payments. And as I mentioned, like the beauty of doing DDC is that you put up a test and you get the results the day after. So we have a very unique positioning where we can test so many hypotheses and get results so quickly that we got to optimize in a relatively short time. There is tons to do DDC related. So we've just started. This is how we feel. We just started. Like there is so much room for optimization, so much room for innovation, not just in payment side of things, but also product side of things. And at Galleon and Stash, this is exactly why we see it as an amazing partnership, an amazing opportunity. We feel that Stash has a lot of knowledge and practice and know-hows when it comes to payments, web shops, relationship with the studios, not just massive one, but also like mid-size and small size. And together with Stash, we feel that it creates a unique opportunity to bring a new value proposition to the market. Like we can do everything together as a joint company. And I feel that what we bring to the table is completely different than what Stash brings to the table. And this is what makes it a perfect match.
What was so unique when we've started the discussion with Stash is we felt that the philosophy that you have in how we make games, how we make studios succeed in their DDC strategy is just like ours, and we don't see it in the industry a lot. So we don't only care about, signing clients and like giving them the tools and like hoping for the best. We care that they will succeed, that we care that they will understand what they should do with DDC, the value of DDC. Well, you don't only have more net revenue, like you're cutting the 30%, as Or said before, but you also know how to roll it into marketing, and you understand like the snowball that you're creating when you're generating more money. We understand how to increase the wallet share of users that are actually using DDC while not damaging the gross revenue, which is, I must say, when you need to optimize it, it becomes art, to do it. And we see Stash's passion for the experience of the user, for, it's way beyond just, technical payments and so on. And when we felt this energy and this passion of the Stash team to achieve it, we felt that, this is the right home for us.
Yeah, I would completely echo that. I mean, I completely agree. When we started talking, I think we both share, I think first and foremost, a real appreciation for games as products and for game design, and understanding that the distribution experiences we're enabling have to support that game as a core product and really have to fit natively into it visually, but also reinforce the things that the players love about that game, depending on what that game is. So it could be the luck-based mechanics, it could be the characters, and that you really have to weave all of that into the distribution experience, as well as, the potential for D2C to really be a strategic asset that expands the horizons for the whole industry. That was one of the reasons I decided to kind of, start the D2C thing as well, was because as an investor, I'd been in the industry and, really felt it was very tough to invest in mobile games at the time. And it wasn't anything to do with the product innovation. Like, there were amazing product teams doing incredible things with game products, but that was really getting diminishing returns with how much growth it unlocked. And I really felt like distribution and D2C was a way that you could, break that diminishing return cycle and unlock a ton of more growth and value for players, developers, for everyone.
I think it creates a true win for everybody. Like the players get more for their money, studios get to keep, maybe not for everybody, but studio get to keep a huge chunk of the revenues. Obviously, Apple and Google still receive revenue. You cannot convert everyone to DDC in one day. It's a process, it takes time. And even in cases where the players decided not to pay with DDC, obviously we don't want to lose this revenue, so we have new ways to, or different ways to still complete a purchase through in a purchase and make it as seamless experience as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, from Stash's side, so when we were thinking about, joining forces, I always think about it through the lens of like the people, and for us, it was like you guys are like hungry entrepreneurs, and you always want that talent inside, your company. And we also loved like how you approach. I just like loved how you guys were thinking about really embedding inside the customers and understanding their needs like very directly. And I think that's like a product philosophy that's something that I've seen work really well in Silicon Valley so many times. So love that energy, and I was like, we need more of this energy in our inside our company. And so also like I wanted to mention at the beginning of the podcast, but I didn't get a chance. Is like Israel is such an important market for mobile gaming, and we've always wanted to like have a presence in Israel, build an office in Israel, and you guys are Israeli entrepreneurs, and kind of create a great start to that, and so a lot of this kind of goes back to like what we were talking before the podcast started. It was like how things can go well and how things sometimes go poorly in acquisitions. Like for me, the ideal here is like bringing you guys in and like getting out of the way, like just continuing Galleon doing the methodology, product development methodology, and building the company in the way that you guys already were doing.
I feel that we are off to a good start when it comes to like we have the support that we need from everyone on staff. Like I feel that how whenever or whatever we need, we have a person to help us with. We already kicked off some interesting conversations on how can we combine our technologies to first of all move faster, but also build more robust solutions to our clients, which is exciting. But also on a more personal level, we get a chance to hang with some of the Stash team in Barcelona for like the get to know each other meeting. And by the end of the day, I know it's a cliche, but it's all about the people.
Yeah.
And we feel that there's an amazing alignment between the people.
Yeah. I love that. And we were talking a little bit about like good acquisitions and bad acquisitions. And I was telling you guys a little bit about Twitch before it started. And I wanted to say that like, I feel like sometimes like when acquisitions get messed up, it's like often because you bring in an entrepreneur, they're highly motivated, and then you like the big company. I mean, Stash is not a big company; it's also a startup, right? So it's like hopefully this doesn't happen. We have like, but if we, it's like when entrepreneurs come. I've seen a lot of friends of mine who sold their company. They join a company, and then there's like culture shock because that acquiring company has so many rules, and like they have a lot of process that just feels like to the entrepreneurs it like bogs them down, And so I said before the podcast, I was like, if you ever feel like that, just give me a call immediately because that would be a huge problem. I don't think it's going to be the case, but just as a flag, I'll put that out there. I think in the best cases, sometimes it's like I was saying with like Twitch. Like I think Amazon actually did that really well considering how big like both Twitch and Amazon were at the time. And I think it came from a place of self-awareness on their part that they like didn't know how to acquire companies, and they didn't know how to acquire particularly like social companies because they had no experience in social. I remember they assigned a liaison. They were like, we don't know how to do an acquisition. So they assigned a liaison who was like an Amazon executive to like go work for Emmett. My co-founder was the CEO of Twitch, and kind of like be his like diplomat basically to the rest of Amazon, and like kind of fend off like Amazon things like that were annoying. And I think that was actually like pretty smart because they ended up continuing to fund Twitch, which was the thing that was needed most, was like capital. But mostly we're like not telling him, oh, you need to do X, Y, or Z things. And like Twitch went from, this was in 2014 when it was acquired. It was like kind of I think we were in an inflection point where it could have gone either way. It could have become like a continued growing, but there were a lot of business risks at the time, particularly around concentration around specific games. Like I think some like 30 something percent was like almost 40% of the traffic was League of Legends when we got acquired. So it was like, we were just really worried about, what would happen if that grew higher and how much leverage that company would have over us. Riot would. Till like, over time it became much, much more diversified and like grew many times bigger than it was when we were acquired. So, like hat tip to Amazon in that way. And that's kind of like the success case, I think, for an acquisition.
Yeah, I'm so happy it's not called, like Amazon Live Video with like, Amazon's choice over, people selling like pens and stuff.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for the vote of trust in us, and we're so excited to like have you on the team and bring your injection of entrepreneurial energy. Another one, I think we have a lot inside the company, but you can never have enough. And just really excited about what we're going to build together, and how much what the product you've built has resonated inside customers.
Yeah, we can't wait to see it as well. Like we're very excited on both ends, on like product side of things and tech. Like where can we take our two technologies together and two tech teams together? Such an amazing tech team. We have a great, amazing tech team, and those two together might build magic stuff. And also like how we're going to address the market as a new joint company, which is something that we are very excited about. I think we're going to change the D2C market.
For sure. We already are, but we'll just put that out there. If you're not a gaming company studio and you're not thinking about your APK strategy, that your side loading strategy, then you are probably leaving money on the table. So, get in touch.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, especially with the new Google rules. So I do think it's a category that's just got nowhere to go but up.
Awesome.
100%. It's funny how we did a full cycle. We started with an APK, moved to direct links, and now we're back in APKs and native experiences. And this is going to be 2026, all about native experiences.
And there we go. You heard it here first. All right. Our Shai, Archie, thanks for joining me, especially on the weekend. If you don't know, we're recording this on a Sunday. That's how hard these guys work. And so thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.